And we're back with a quick tutorial on how to do the early game, or the early game hump as I'm going to call it. When it comes to duplicate choices, the only thing you really care about is their negative traits. Don't worry about the positives for the moment. There's 6 negative traits that you do want because they're the least impactful. From worst to best, it's irritable bowel, then yokel, then biohazardous, gastrophobia, pacifist, and squeamish. All the text is beneath them so you can look them up, but it's effectively ones that don't have any real impact on your game. If someone can't do cooking, no one really cares. You only usually need 1 cook, 2 if you go with a giant base. Can't do attacking, you only need 1 or 2 dupes that can attack to kill critters, so you don't care. And doctoring, you're only going to ever need 1 doctoring. So these 3, if you're trying to optimize, these 3 are the worst traits to worry about. For positive traits or interests, you want to have 2 specialized diggers. Your diggers are going to be doing all the excavation, and 2 powerful ones at the start are incredibly useful. We'll cover more on that later. Science, you want 1 scientist with +7 science, preferably with quick learner. That would be great also. For the traits over here on these, I used to hold out for mole hands, but you do require spinning an awful lot if you want to get mole hands and +7 excavation and get a good negative trait. So it's depending how much time you're willing to put into spinning, or you could just download a mod and get the ones you want without having to spin for half an hour. Now, as for the stress reactions, don't worry about them. Your dupes should never get stressed out, especially if you're playing on normal difficulty. Overjoyed response. This one gets a little bit trickier. Best I can figure, this is too random to be of good use to actually target too much. So I go with Sparkle Streakers. It gives a bonus to athletics, and a bonus to athletics just means your dupes move faster, and that is always good. I have a whole tutorial on this somewhere. Just look it up in the channel. You'll find something on it. First thing you do is click on your dupes when you start, because occasionally the game will do things that are a bit odd. For example, this one person has 10 science. This person has 7 excavation, but Hassan, for some reason, has 7 in animal husbandry. Okay, let me explain. Sometimes there's a weird bug where when you start the game, one of the stats gets transposed. It's happened to me. This is about the 3rd or 4th time I've seen this happen. So it's kind of annoying. Yeah. Okay, just did a quick reroll. Got all the dupes set up. We've got +7 excavation, +7 excavation, +7 science. Now, first thing you want to do is find your 3 water pockets. You're going to have at least 3. Well, usually only 3 water pockets, but this one we've got a little extra one. Then you want to create a ladder system that goes from usually to the left or right of your gateway, going up or down. And you want to make sure try and make sure it avoids all the water pockets. So a nice ladder system going right down the middle here is what we're going to plan to do. After digging a few tiles, you'll get your hands on materials, at which point you'll be allowed to build things. Until you have something mined out, you can't, produce anything. Everything requires something to be made of. So say sandstone here for this pitcher pump. We're just going to throw that pitcher pump, say about there. That will give us access to water. Very important. The very first things you want to get your hands on is, toilets. We want to get ourselves up some outhouses, otherwise the dupes will pee and they'll put germs everywhere, which is an annoyance to deal with. We're also going to get them some sinks so they can wash their hands so they don't end up covered in germs. And finally, on top of that, we're going to want to get them some bedrooms. But the priorities are the toilets first. That will usually cause the most annoyance. Bedrooms can be fixed later. And we should get along to the priority system. This little thing here allows you to control what's prioritized first, last, etc. What you want to do is take your 2 diggers, these ones here, and you want to give them a +2 bonus to digging and building. This just means they're going to do all of those things first. If any of those things are not done, they'll do something else. There's tutorials on this as well. For Turner, our researcher, we're just going to downgrade their building and digging, and then we're going to up their researching. This means they will leave digging and building until last. They'll prefer to do researching, and if there's no researching to do, they'll leave everything else in the middle. It just means they'll handle all our cooking and side projects. In this instance, I'm just digging across here and trying to wall in underneath me as I go so that I don't drop all the material. We've also found our first hatch. We'll be farming them later. Another thing, the reason why Turner is bringing this muckroot here, if you haven't messed with your priorities, what will happen is the dupes may not prioritize it, but they're bringing that muckroot back to this storage facility, which is great because otherwise this hatch will quite happily eat it. Yeah, make sure you've got muckroot automatically determined to be brought back there. For toilets and sinks, we're just going to have 2 sinks here, 2 outhouses there. Done, dusted. That is the extent of how difficult we're going to make this. We don't even care about putting it in a room just yet. You can get room bonuses by making rooms out of it and sealing them in. But we really just want to make sure that our dupes clean themselves up before anything happens. Use the toilets, use the sinks, done and dusted. If we can get some, for day 1, that should be your number 1 objective, is to get toilets and sinks up and running. Your secondary objective should be to get beds up and running. The reason being, if dupes sleep on the ground, they get a negative, debuff to their athletics for half of the next day. It slows them down just a little bit. It's not the end of the world. It'd just be preferable not to have it happen. So what we'll do is we'll dig up here and we'll place in some quick bedrooms as well. Hopefully we have enough time for that too. This should mean we'll have beds for everyone to sleep in, and we'll have toilets and sinks for everyone to use. And oh, yep, a bunch of sand dropped down. This will happen to you all the time. Oh, when it happens, don't panic. It just means the building's out of use until you get rid of that. I'm going to set that to priority 6. That means my duplicants will prioritize that, and they'll hopefully get around to it before they do any of the other digging and constructing. Now, there's a bunch of videos and tutorials here. I've watched them before, so I would advise you to have a look at them, and also click the X's when you're done. If you leave them there, it's probably the sign that you've got problems. Maybe not problems, but it's definitely considered a sign of bad mental health to leave so many of them lying around. I mean, that's just craziness. Anyway, we're going to stick in doors here, and we're going to turn these into rooms. It's quite simple to do. Oh, if you click on any building or any tile or anything at all, you can replicate it by pressing the B button or the copy button down here. You'll see if you just hover over this, it shows you how to copy, and the shortcut is B in case you've changed it. Then you can just do that, and we will set those to a higher priority. Let's just make that 6. Boom. Our dupes prioritize doing that over anything else that's going on. And now we should have ourselves, if we check out the room overlays, we have a barracks up here, which will give a +1 morale bonus. You can see all the effects, the requirements, all of that. Now, these are not hugely important this early on. All of your dupes start with a little bit of a bonus to their happiness. Their morale is +1 for the new hope. So everyone's got +2 morale right now, and you can't even increase their morale because you can't spend any skill points until they've, developed more skill points. And right now, yeah, it'll be about cycle 5 or 6 before they can afford to buy a skill point, which will cost them morale. It's not even the end of the first cycle. We've got ourselves a barrack set up, and we've got ourselves wash basins and 2 outhouses. We are very well set up, to be honest. Let's just set the directions on these. All this does is make sure that when they're walking past them, they'll only wash their hands when they're going out, as opposed to both in and out. It can just save some time. If they come in covered in germs, who cares? You just want them clean when they're going out. If they're covered in germs when they leave here and they pick up food, the food will transfer from them to their food, and then when they eat it, they'll get inside them. Food germs can only affect them if the germs are on the duplicant when they eat food. That's pretty much it, or the food already has germs on it. With all of that done, next thing we're going to do then is we're going to start the next section, which is science. The reason we want science power and science. The reason you want power and science is power allows you to run algae deoxidizers, which allows you to create oxygen. Currently, we're only surviving on oxalate. This oxalate will keep you going for about 3, maybe 5 days, depending on how much you use it and how fast you expand. So you are going to have to get into power to utilize that. What we're installing here is a research station, a manual generator, and 2 batteries. Oh, we ran out of time. Dupes finished. If we click on the dupe here and we check out their germ overlay, they are open with surface germs. They've already washed. Never mind. We'll find out when the next 2 dupes come in. They go in, they hop into these little cisterns here. When they come out, surface germs. Here we go. Surface germs. And as they wash at the sink, the surface germs get washed off. By the time they're finished, they're usually clean. It is possible for them to have so many germs on them that one sink washing will not clean them, though I wouldn't worry about that too early on. Another thing you can do is you can open these doors. When the doors are open, it doesn't affect the room bonus. It will still count as a room. It just cuts down on the amount of time it takes them to get in and out. There is a small little delay as they pass through doors, so doing that with them is not a problem. Oh, and another thing. When it comes to outhouses, there is a disinfect priority that goes on with things. So because this has germs on it, where is it? Germs, surface germs. Yes, because it has surface germs on it, your dupes will come along and disinfect it. This is all controlled by this up here, this germ overlay. So you can see the germs on top of the toilets. Yeah, just turn it off. I know that sounds terrible, but it just seems like it really makes no difference. They'll get germs off this toilet no matter what they do, but once they pass the sink, the germs are gone. Yeah, I turned off disinfect a long time ago and it just saved soap. Oh, there's a little thing up here. Sometimes when you dig out, sand will fall down. Yeah, keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, your dupes can end up getting trapped or teleported magically through walls. Getting teleported magically through walls is just one of the things that's going to happen in this game. The Reddit is full of pictures of, wow, how did my dupe get here? One of the few things that can mess you up at this point is not having access to copper. You need copper to make all of these materials and the wires that go between them. Depending on your biome, it could be aluminum or whatever, but we're going with Terra here. Sometimes you may have a problem getting copper. Just dig until you find it. That's why it's also very handy to have lots of people who can dig. Food-wise, you're just going to survive on muckroot at the start. For muckroot, that just means expanding rapidly and digging out everywhere. Now that we have this basics up and running, we are just going to stick down 1 oxygen diffuser. Right there, we are going to hook up a power wire to it from our little power grid here. There we go. And that will produce our oxygen. This oxalite here, I've put a few ladder segments under it. This oxalite decays. You can see it's decaying. Eventually it will disappear. When it disappears, I want my dupes to be able to still get in and out of here. And I don't want to dig it up. If you dig it up at half the mass, and then you means you've lost half the oxygen it could have produced. Things happen. Now, for this, we're going to set this to when it's down to about 25%. What this means is when the battery threshold on the entire grid hits 25%, or is it just one battery? Whatever, they even out eventually anyway. Once it hits 25%, your dupe will get it back on the manual generator and keep charging until it hits 100%. Then they will stop. Now that we have oxygen coming in, beds for our dupes, toilets for our dupes, it's time to... like I said, that sand will get you several times. Next thing to do is start our research. First thing on the research tree you will want to do, we'll zoom out a bit here, is go all the way up here to the top left. And this is all to do with food, farming, and mess tables. Mess tables are, well, they're pretty important. So let's go straight for those. Also, the food stuff, yeah, we'll come back to that in a bit. But yeah, start that up. And your researcher there, once they're finished doing... again? Your researcher, when they're finished doing whatever they're doing, will go along and hop onto the research bench and immediately start researching. Here we go. Since Turner's priority system, as set up here, is set with the research to the up mark, that means they'll always do researching so long as it's available, no matter what. There's a whole tutorial on the priority system. Look it up if you want it. It goes into far more detail than I'm going to go through here. When you're digging up like this, my advice, 4-tile high rooms. It's pretty much the default standard everyone uses. The reason being, pretty much every building, bar the very late game ones, will fit inside a 4-tile high room. When dupes are cutting out 4-tile high rooms, they have just enough space to reach from the bottom floor to the top here, meaning they can fill in this room with whatever they want. If you want to put in furniture or anything, or paintings all the way up to the top, you totally can. If you make it 5 tiles high, you can't quite excavate it out from standing on the ground floor. If you make it 3 tiles high, some of the buildings won't fit in there. It's just the standard everyone picks, and usually everything is set off from the printing pod. Don't think of this as a natural environment you want to preserve. Well, you can if you want. Personally, I think of it as a natural environment that needs to be demolished, torn down, and replaced with something more useful for your duplicants' needs. Yeah, pretty much like humans. Yeah. Anyway, we will skip this forward a bit while we core out some more of this area. End of the second day, you will notice we have more calories at the end of the second day than when we started. The reason being, we are finding and digging up muckroot everywhere. There's muckroot there, muckroot there, muckroot there. That tile there, God knows what it is, might be muckroot. Let's, dig it out and find out. We'll find out after the next sleeping schedule happens. But all those little cracks, they all contain either muckroot or seeds or all sorts of useful things. Your plan, once you've got a little bit of oxygen and your beds and your toilet set up, you want to core out this entire area, the entire starting biome. You want to dig it out. It all has to go. It is also a nice idea to consolidate your one water tank. Just make sure you have enough toilets, otherwise your dupes will pee in it. Well, our research is complete. We've completed both of those researches rather quickly because our researcher is an absolute beast. That gives us access to mess tables, cooking, a few other things. But the most important one is the mess tables, the grill, ration box, and planter pots are not actually pretty useful. That means we can build ourselves a mess hall. A mess hall allows us to assign a place where our dupes will take their food and eat it, and it also gives us a bit of a morale bonus. This is going to be our mess hall. It's going to be a very basic, quick one. And I've set it to priority 6 so that they'll prioritize that over everything else they're doing. Just to get it done. I've even cut research just to get it up and running, hopefully before the end of this cycle. At the same time, we've got our first printing pod activation. Every 3 cycles, this activates and you get a choice between dupes and something usually, some sort of care package. When it comes to dupes, early on, your first few games, you probably won't want to hire anyone for a while. You're going to want to get used to the mechanics. You're going to be going slow. You're going to want to take your time. Later on, though, you're probably going to start hiring people more and more quickly. Looking at these, we do have 2 choices here for dupes we could hire. This one here could be used for a few things, but what I want at the moment is a dog's body. Someone to run around and do all the boring stuff, including the cooking, the cleaning, the farming, all of that. And grastrophobia means they're out. This one, though, however, is, despite having 2 negatives, squeamish and biohazardous, they can totally cook, clean, they can farm. Yeah, they will take them. They'll immediately print and pop out of the pod. Let's cover something also very important here, scheduling. When it comes to scheduling, you don't want to put everyone all on the same schedule as you get more and more duplicates. If you're only running with 4 or 5 duplicates, that's fine. You can just build 4 or 5 toilets. But what we're going to do is offset everyone so they use the facilities at different times. That way you can use, say, 3 toilets and run 36 duplicates, assuming you put, say, 12 different shifts. You could totally use 3 toilets, 3 sinks, and run that many dupes. I mean, would it be hygienic? Well, who cares? So, best thing to do, add a new schedule. add a new schedule, then add a second new schedule, and then offset them slightly by changing the downtime slots and the bedtime slots. Oh, you know what? I should have changed all this already, shouldn't I? What you should do immediately on starting, that I did not do, is get rid of that third bedtime slot. It's completely unnecessary. Once the dupes are in bed, they'll stay in bed until they're fully rested, so it's totally useless. Bath time, don't need it. Get rid of it. Leave them 2 downtime slots, 2 bedtime slots, and leave the rest as work. Might as well get some maximum productivity out of them. Later on, you will have to improve their downtime slots. You'll have to give them up to 3 to 5, depending on how far away from the base they're getting. But this early on, you don't care. Next up, move all of your starting dupes to the second schedule. And now you'll notice that the starting schedule is completely blank. Now, there is method behind this madness. It was recommended to me in the comments. This is not even my idea. I stole it from someone whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. When you hire new dupes, they automatically end up in the schedule, and occasionally you're going to hire dupes, forget to change their schedule, and you'll end up with too many people in one schedule. So you just leave the early schedule blank, and then when you do remember, you come back and move them out. Unless you end up with 5 or 6 in there like I've done before. Never mind, just leave the schedules like that, and then you'll have plenty of space. Now that we have this extra duplicate, it's time to also assign their priorities. This dupe is not going to be our build diggers. These 2 build diggers, they're going to stay as our build diggers. So this one, we're going to deprioritize building and digging for them, and we're going to let them take care of everything else in the base. If everything else is done, then they'll dig in on those options. But we want them to take care of cleaning the toilets, moving stuff around the place, doing cleaning, all that kind of stuff. We do not want... Oh, they'll charge the generator, all of that stuff. Our scientist will, of course, do science first. Then after that, they'll do that. And then what we'll do is we'll just leave these as just normal. That way the scientist will do whatever's closest to them, and that seems like a reasonable way to do things. Also, we need those tiles rebuilt so we can get this research station up and running. Oh, and finally, we have our mess hall up and running. That's +3 morale, +1 morale for the barracks, +1 morale for the toilets. That's an extra +5 morale just for making rooms, just for building the rooms themselves. It's coming up on the end of cycle 3. We have 4 dupes, one of whom is sleeping on the floor because I forgot to give them a cot. Yep, make sure you maybe build a few preemptive cots for yourself. We all make mistakes. As well as that, our food is now up to 26,000 calories because we keep finding more and more muckroot around the map. Though it's not getting brought back here as fast as I'd like, so let's set that at priority 6, just to make sure it gets done. Abe here Dog's Body here had to sleep on the ground last night. This has, of course, given them a mild negative. Sore back. They're going to have -1 to their athletics for 0.5 of a cycle. That's just an annoyance, so that's what happens if they don't get to sleep in a bed. It also takes them a little bit longer to recover their stamina. It's not the end of the world, but considering how easy it is to throw down a cot, and they can be made out of pretty much any raw mineral, it's a good idea to invest. Oh, that reminds me, we also got to do research. Up next, we are going to go for coal generators, jumbo batteries. Coal generators and jumbo batteries. We're going to be going for those 2 first. Then after that, we are going to start getting more permanent facilities. Everything so far has just been temporary. Everything. And, buggery. I just realized, I said avoid the 3 water pockets and thread your ladder between them. Unfortunately, there was a 4th water pocket I didn't notice. So if we go straight down, we're going to go straight into that water pocket. I think, no, we can push that aside if we need to be. The reason we're going to want to dig down is all of this carbon dioxide down here, that's going to become more and more of a problem as the game goes on. Our dupes are currently breathing out CO2, and with CO2 just hangs around until we find a way of disposing of it, which requires us to get our hands on some technology. But yeah, we can dig down like this, but the more we dig down, the more carbon dioxide we go through. Our dupes will have to hold their breath, run all the way down, and then they'll have to run out occasionally to gasp for breath. It slows them down and makes things much more inefficient. So, we'll leave that there for now, but I think what we're going to do is start consolidating things. We're going to make a proper mess hall. We're going to make a proper set of toilets. We're going to put all the sort of proper materials in place so that we can do a decent base. Right now, all we were doing was getting down everything we can as quickly as we can with no regards for consistency. Oh, another thing that always comes up. Why do I leave the dirt tiles in? Why don't I replace them with sandstone? Because it takes time. It's just really not worth the effort of going out of my way to replace them. Later on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace these tiles. When I do, all this debris will fall down. That's kind of useful. Debris gives you a negative to decor. Let's see, there's decor up there. So this debris is giving a negative to decor. Sweeping up, though, it takes so much time. So normally what you do instead is you just demolish the floors. And when you demolish the floors, all the debris falls down. So what I can do is just grab this tile, hit that there, and when that tile is placed, the sandstone will fall straight through, or all the debris that's on top of it will fall straight down and end up on the floor beneath it. However, say this tile here, or these tiles here, to get rid of the debris on this, I have to deconstruct the tile first. It's just an annoyance. So the reason I leave these things around is because later on, when I do build over them, all the stuff falls off. I know that sounds silly, but that's the way it works. Oh, over here, that looks dangerous. Is that going to break through? Water can actually force its way through an area. If there's too much water pressure and the material behind it is too weak, it can crack through, but I think we're pretty safe there. Calorie-wise, 27,514, and yeah, even more going up. Let's skip this forward a bit while research continues. Jumbo batteries complete. Immediately stick down a jumbo battery right here. Jumbo batteries are better in pretty much every respect. They store more power and they have less power runoff. These batteries generate heat and the charge sort of degrades, same as real-life batteries in a way. Well, so maybe not the heat, but anyway, if you put in a jumbo battery and replace the two smaller batteries, it's just more efficient in terms of power wastage and everything in general. Oh, yeah, and we've got our wire in there. Perfect, good to go. Let's skip this forward a bit more. Before we get into just building my preferred base type, there's plenty of ways you can go. I like to put down a couple of oxygen diffusers. One oxygen diffuser can theoretically produce 500 grams of oxygen. That's enough to support 5 duplicates. Well, 500 grams of oxygen per second. However, well, you'll have power outages, you'll have downtime, you'll have things like that. I would prefer to put in extra ones. So my advice, always have plenty of spares. Worst case scenario, they do nothing. Once they overpressurize and they can't produce any more oxygen, they stop working. They're not going to waste any algae on you. They're pretty much a no-brainer. Put down as many as you want. Just make sure everywhere's oxygenated and it won't make any difference. They don't overpressurize areas. They're pretty much perfect. Oh, someone just gained a skill point. Where was it? Skills. Right. Dog's Body. Dog's Body has just gained their... Oh, no, they were new. Sorry, no one's gained a skill point. They gained a level. Dog's Body is new, so they automatically get assigned a skill point on creation. This is... Oh, it's a bit tricky, but since this is going to be my cook, I usually stick them immediately into cooking. There's nothing worse than getting the grill and then realizing you haven't put a skill point into it and then having to wait 10 cycles until they level up enough to get grilling. Otherwise, if it wasn't that, I'd put them into improved carrying for the extra carry capacity. This is an incredibly powerful one. By default, dupes can carry 200 kilos. This increases it by an extra 400. Not 400, an extra 400 on top, putting them up to 600 kilos. Very, very powerful. This adds an extra 800 kilos. So as you can see, this gets pretty ridiculous. These two here, they're pretty much a no-brainer for every single duplicate by the end of the game. Oh, should really point out, they now have a morale requirement of +1. If you get any of these skills, it adds +1 to their morale requirements. If you get any of these, it adds +2. Also, you can say click here and it'll show you to get both of those will require an extra 3 morale. If you go up to here, it's 3 morale for anything in here, 4 for rocket piloting, 5 for rocket navigation. Usually you're going to specialize duplicates though. For example, Hassan and Askan, they will be going straight into super hard digging, well, all the digging tech. Turner, here, our researcher, will be, well, going into research, and Dog's Body will be getting into cooking, carting stuff around, and a few other things. But generally, specializing means you can get all the skills they need. Don't get everything, just get the skills they need, and you'll have no morale problems at all. Research is now completed. We have got... Yeah, internal combustion. So we've got coal generators and large batteries. Next up, we are going to go straight for toilets. The reason I like to do this is it cuts down on labor requirements. You don't have to plunge the toilets. You don't have to top up the sinks. You can get rid of all the waste automatically. It just makes things simpler for you and your duplicates. But while that is going on, yeah, that jumbo battery still is not complete. At this stage of the game, things will be happening really quickly and you'll be getting access to lots of new technologies very fast. So it's quite easy to get lost in all of this. This here is my standard issue bathroom. I have built it God knows how many times. It's built directly below my dining hall for the reasons that once dupes have used the bathroom, they go immediately to the dining hall. It's just the way the AI works. They will go to the bathroom first, then after they finish in the bathroom, they'll go straight to get food. So I place my dining hall directly above my toilets. Okay, not best for hygiene maybe, but in this game, it's just an efficiency thing. I've tried redesigning these things a few times and I've just ended up sticking with this original design because when I made it first, it seems I really thought about it quite heavily and I haven't really figured out how to improve it or just I haven't put in enough time, I suppose. Anyway, let's skip this forward and see what it looks like when it's completed. All right, several things have happened at once because, of course, to do with this level of the game. We've got plumbing level 1, so that means we can use pumps and stuff, but all we really care about is getting up to lavatories, toilets, and sinks. Secondly, everyone's got a skill point. So Hassan is immediately going to go into hard digging. Importance of this allows you to dig through very firm materials, usually what you're going to be surrounded with. For example, we'll go over to the edge of the map, say here, this granite. This granite is a very hard material, so that means Hassan is the only one who can dig through it. No one else can. Until we get them, well, until we get the other dupe up as well. So now Ashcan, we're going to give them hard digging. That means both of them can dig through that material. Turner and Dog's Body, they can't do that. But Turner, our researcher, is going to immediately get advanced into research. You know what? Let's give Turner a new name. They shall now be known as Krang, our researcher. Right, that leaves our 2 frontline dupes. I should probably give them names as well so I can remember them. We'll finish this off first, which is, this is going to be our dining hall. Our new dining hall is coming along nicely. At the same time, more research has completed, because of course it has. So now we've got sanitation up and running. We can put in some plumb toilets and sinks. We also want to get our hands on supercomputers, because we're going to need that to get some of the more advanced tech. This also gets us the water cooler, which is great, which is still somehow under employment despite all the patches. There used to be a jobs board here. Never mind. So we're going to get the supercomputer, and we're going to get the water cooler, both of which will help us out quite nicely. Also, you want another dupe. Another dupe comes out. Let's see what they've got. Oxalite, this dupe is terrible. They've got flatulence. They'll put natural gas all over your base. That gas can stifle crops, do all sorts of nasty things, not worth the effort. Narcoleptic, they're annoying. They keep falling asleep, and when they do fall asleep, they drop things. Also, they spend a larger percentage of their day asleep, unfortunately, due to this, and it slows down their leveling up. They generally just are all round weaker. It's also very annoying when they're getting scalded to death and decide to take a nap. I just wouldn't be bothered. Pick something that you want and just take it. Oxalite or algae. Wow, we've already cranked out both of those researches, which is just great. All those done. What was up? Next up, we're going to get ourselves some flower pots and some lighting, because of course we are. Now that all that research is complete, we've got a water cooler and we've got a flower pot. And that gives us a new room. A great hall. This is probably the simplest, biggest morale boost you can possibly get. It takes you from a mess hall, which gives you +3 morale, to a great hall that has +6. All you need, on top of just a normal room with some tables in it, is a water cooler, which is classified as a recreational building, and a decor item of +20 or greater, which just requires a plant in a pot. That's it. +3 morale bonus. As well as that, you can, if you're feeling very sneaky, you can disable this building, and it won't even cost you water to run the cooler. Normally your dupes will come along, drink water out of the cooler, and get a +1 morale bonus. It's usually not worth the effort. Turning it off saves you the water. I usually leave it on, but it's one of those very useful things that people have a tendency to use a lot. Now down here, I have been expanding our water tank, because why not? This is going to become our entire water storage facility, so I thought I would expand it out a bit. It also is sucking down all of the carbon dioxide, because it's a nice big area for the carbon dioxide to collect into. Though I do not want to tuck into that slime. Nope. Slime is a big no-no. Also don't want to tuck into that polluted water. That would cause issues. So we're just going to expand this water tank a bit, and then we're going to drop all of the water into it. At the same time, I have built a pump down here. I've also hooked up pipe to it and power cabling. Now we can start using this to power our toilets. We can swap them out for plumbed ones. With that giant construction order of lots of piping, lots of power wiring and everything gone in, we're also going to install a whole bunch of batteries over here. Oh, no, sorry, we're going to cancel this and cancel that one. This is a good time actually to talk about the ladder system. In the center, you're going to want to leave yourself about 4 tiles of width. Well, you'll see here I've got 3 between the doors. 4 tiles of width door to door. So you want 1, 2, 3, 4. This allows you to put in a ladder. Later on, we're going to put in a fire pole. It also leaves you, I'll put in the fire pole here, and then that leaves you 1 tile on each side where your duplicants can hop off onto. At the same time, having it 3 tiles of space in here just means that gases flow down a lot easier. Your duplicants are constantly exhaling that carbon dioxide, and that needs to flow down somewhere. Having a nice 3 tile wide corridor means it all flows down and collects down here nice and neatly. But power, we are going to put 5 jumbo batteries down here. We're going to put the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, that's an awful lot of jumbo batteries. Then to those jumbo batteries, we are going to hook up a power cable. The reason we're putting the jumbo batteries down here is they do produce heat. Let's get them nice and low down in our base so that the temperature doesn't interfere with any crops we're going to grow up here later. At the same time, we are going to put a power generator right here, a coal generator. So, you know what, I'll put that down in a minute once the batteries are in place. I don't want to place it down any earlier than that, well, for fear of causing problems. We're also going to brick this area up. Once this is done, before that's done actually, we've got another duplicant choice we could make. Honestly, either of those are perfectly worthwhile. One's a pacifist, one's got gastrophobia. We've already got someone assigned as a cook, and yeah, those 2 traits are perfect. However, this is a tutorial, so let's not go nuts. Instead, we'll just take the food. I'll just stay at 4 dupes for this demonstration, just because as a newer player, that's probably what you'd want to stick on anyway. What are we at here now? Wow, okay, I think I'm going to disable that for now. Yep, we'll disable that building because we're about to put in a proper power generator right over here. So we'll stick in a coal generator right there. So the plan is this. These coal generators, normally people will advise you, wait until you have smart batteries, wait until you have smart batteries, wait until you have smart batteries. However, what you can do here is this coal generator, the mechanics of it are, it will get filled up with coal. When it's filled with coal, it will burn all that coal, no matter what. However, it won't turn back on again. It has a similar thing like this, and it won't turn back on again until the battery level reaches a certain level. Well, it won't request more coal until the battery level reaches a certain point. We're going to set that to about 5%. One full load of coal can fill about, I think it's 7 batteries, or is it 8? I can't remember off the top of my head. So what you normally do is you hook up 5 batteries, which is a good balance between power consumption, power waste, and heat generation. As well as that, you will be drawing power as it's cooking for, I think it runs for a full 500 seconds, or almost an entire cycle. So you will be burning off some of the power it's producing as it's making it. So all in all, it usually works out quite well if you do it that way. Oh, and my dupes are doing nothing. Hold on while I queue up a bunch of commands. There we go. A few more commands queued up. And a few more up here. We're going to need more muckroot. We're down to 23,000 calories. Anyway, this is where the coal generator is going to go. And the reason we stick it up here first is it just dumps out a lot of carbon dioxide. And we want to fill this pit with carbon dioxide. If we can fill this with carbon dioxide, it'll act like a nice little food storage location for us. Oh, and at the same time, I think the very first thing in the morning, we're going to rip out those toilets and replace them with plumbed ones. Wait, I can't do the toilets yet until I have a way to dispose of the polluted water. It's been a while since I played this. Normally I just make a tank at the back, but I've kind of messed that up by having this giant blob of water back here. So instead I'm going to just get some farm tiles, and we'll use the farm tiles to dispose of the polluted water from our toilets. That should be researched reasonably quickly. Yeah, we've got a good researcher on it. If you'll observe, the coal generator has just run out of coal. However, it's not requesting any more. The reason being, we've set this to 5% threshold. That means until these batteries hit 5%, it's not going to request any more. And because it's not requesting any more, it's not wasting coal. So if you're going to run a coal generator without smart batteries, give yourself 5 jumbo batteries. Be aware, though, they will produce heat, so it's always a good thing to get onto the smart batteries sooner. You don't leave it forever. But you can at least install a coal generator reasonably early and get your base running on it. About cycle 10, cycle 12, not a bother. We have got that done. Let's see if we can't get in a hydroponics farm tile. I'm also going to get my hands on a thimbleweed seed. That's going to be interesting. Where can I find myself a thimbleweed seed? Well, somewhere over here in the slime biome, I'm thinking. I just don't want to dig up any slime because it's covered in slime lung. Never mind, that was pretty easy. I found a couple of thimbleweed seeds there. These ones are used for making reed fiber, but also they have the added benefit of being really good at soaking up water. They can consume about 140 kilos of wastewater, or polluted water a cycle, making them really good at disposing of, say, toilet water. A toilet and a sink installed, plumbing set up. The plumbing on these is fairly straightforward. This is the input pipe, this is the output pipe. For the output pipes, don't run a pipe straight through them, so for the inputs I'm running them straight through, that's fine, but for the outputs, if I ran this green through another green, as the liquid's going through, it would prevent anything exiting this pipe. So you need to give them a little bit of an output segment. It's fine. Works just great. There we go. Water's in. Toilets are good to go. And that's it. Now all we got to do is rip out the rest and replace them with the newer toilets. Here we have water exiting our system. And this water is going to go straight over here and into our plants. I should really set up a little bit of a backup. This is a little bit riskier. But I did want to get the toilet set up to show you how convenient they are. Once they're set up, you don't really have to worry about the labor costs involved in running the normal toilets. These ones you have to come along every 10 uses and clean them out. The sinks have to be topped up with clean water every so often, and the polluted water has to be removed. This just cuts down on labor. It's very simple and easy to set up, and with a little bit of power, that's effectively freeing up a whole duplicant's time. Since this is a tutorial, we're just going to stick on 4, grab the pips, and I think we'll cut this out here. This is effectively how you get past the early cycles of the game, what you should prioritize, how to deal with oxygen generation, all of that. For example, we're still running on algae. We have 7 tons of it. We've got plenty of algae. We don't have to worry about oxygen just yet, and we've expanded massively. We have all this free space to work it with. People will tell you, don't expand, don't dig out areas, you're wasting oxygen. You know what? The pressure is about, 1 to 2 kilos? You can get maxed out at about 2 kilos of oxygen pressure. That's tiny. That means 30 tiles of space is about enough oxygen to keep 1 dupe alive for a cycle. We have 4 duplicants, so that means, pretty much all of this space here, even if we didn't oxygenate it, would keep our dupes alive for 1 more cycle. However, digging out all the space gives us lots more muckroot, which means we have lots more food. Digging out all the space gives us lots more natural resources, access to hatches, access to lots more things we can do, and gives us lots more options. We can also build up our rooms, do everything. This is why having diggers is so important. You can effectively completely ignore farming. We have not touched farming yet. That will be in the next tutorial, which will be Early Game Hump Part 2. All of that you can just pretty much put on the long finger because you've got all the food you need. all the oxygen you need from all the algae you've been digging up. And we've got all of these hatches, which we are going to be ranching later, that we found already because of all the digging we've done. Research-wise, you want to get your... Well, I like to get up the toilets early, I like to get up the coal generator early, and I like to get this place filled with carbon dioxide. We're going to be putting in our cooking here, and having a nice little CO2 food storage pit is pretty much default for most bases nowadays. CO2 means the food will never go off, and we can start dumping food in here. Actually, do we have... No, we have nothing else in here but muckroot. We can dump all our food in there, and it will keep it nice and fresh for later in the game. Don't forget to delete your old toilets, unlike me, who completely blanked that. As well as that, we've got all of this area now cored out, and we can start putting in more permanent rooms and facilities and start our expansion in a much more organized manner. Anyway, I hope this was at least mildly informative for you, and good luck.